Hello everybody, I'm Mei Han-Chen. First off, I just want to say how much we appreciate everybody's support. Since the launch of 龙飞虎讲功夫英语 just a few months ago, we've had well over 2.4 million downloads. This has really given us energy and passion to keep going and make more podcasts to help solve the English learning problems of our viewers. This week, we decided to do something a little bit special. We've just using audio and not video, and over the last few weeks, we have been collecting questions from people all over China who are using Gongfu English or who follow the podcast. Today, I have asked Chris Lonsdale, Long Fei Hu, to talk to us about an important part of Gongfu English program, which is his book, The Third Year. Chris, can you please tell us a little about The Third Year? What exactly is this book?
The third year teaches you how to regain your natural talent for learning a second language. You might not believe it, but every single one of us has that talent. Remember, you learned your mother tongue without anyone teaching you. You did it because your brain knows exactly how to learn language. We're all born with that talent.
That's true, you are right. When we were kids, no one taught us our native language, but we still learn it really well. Does that mean that you can learn any language with the third year?
Absolutely, yes. The third year teaches people how to learn any new language easily and quickly. So what does the third year talk about? Well, firstly, I address the issue of the unconscious beliefs that most people have that prevent them from even daring to start learning a new language. The book talks about all of the mental barriers that people have and helps them to change their mind. For example, many Westerners think that they can't learn Chinese because they're tone deaf, which means they think they don't hear tones. Because Chinese is a tonal language, then naturally they think that they would not be able to learn Chinese. Of course, in English, for example, people use tones all the time. Really sounds totally different to really or really. As soon as a Westerner understands this, then Chinese is much easier for that person. In the third year, I also look at the techniques and approaches used by people who learn second languages easily. It's a simple idea, really. If you want to learn anything quickly and easily, find a person who already knows how to do it. Do what they do and you'll completely change your own learning experience. For example, great language learners do things like brain soaking, and they connect their ear to their mouth so they can feel in their mouth how things should sound. Great language learners also use their adult advantage and focus on the core of a new language as their first step. They never try to learn everything, but learn the most common, most useful things first.
Yeah, I've heard that hundreds of people have used the third year method to learn to speak different languages fluently in just 6 months. I've heard of people who mastered Spanish, Portuguese, even Chinese with the third year approach.
Yeah, since I published the third year, it's been used by people from dozens of countries, most of whom go to a second country and immerse themselves in that culture. What's really interesting is that, on average, people learn a second language to fluency in about 6 months. For example, Zoe, a young lady from Australia, went to Brazil. In just 6 months, using the idea in the third year, she could speak fluent Portuguese. Naz from India went to Chile and learned Spanish in 6 months as well. We've had letters from people all around the world telling us that the third year is so very useful because it gives very sensible and practical direction on how to make the language learning process easy and effective.
Wow, that is really quite amazing. So the third year can help Chinese people learn English quickly?
Of course. English is a foreign language for Chinese people, right? The principles are the same no matter what language you're learning.
So I'm really curious here. What led you to want to write this book?
Well, for many years I observed people in China and all around the world struggling with learning English or other languages. From my own experience and research I'd done, I knew that learning a new language really doesn't have to be very difficult. All that struggle really was not necessary. I thought about writing the book for many years but kept putting it off. And the more I put it off, the more uncomfortable I got. So finally I decided to write the book.
I've heard that before you wrote this book, you actually tested the idea with I Ching?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us what the result was? What did you get?
I got 6 long lines, the Qian Gua, which, as you know, is very auspicious. After that, There's no way that I couldn't write the book.
Lots of fans have another question they really want to know the answer to. Does the name of the book, The Third Year, have some special meaning?
Yes, it does.
I'm curious, does it have any link to the third eye? We call it 天目 in Chinese.
Well, it definitely does have a connection to the idea of the third eye, which talks about intuition. There's actually a story to how the book got its name. When I was writing the book, I emailed some possible titles to my mailing list. I had a couple of titles in mind, but people were split on what was the best one. Then one day I was having coffee with a friend and he blurted out, "When you learn language, you use your third ear." That was it, the book title. It was perfect. Why do I say that? Well, firstly, to learn language you must listen. Language is, first and foremost, auditory. If you only learn from books, you end up being mute. Secondly, we all have intuition for language. In English, the third eye means inner sight, and it points to intuition. So the third ear points to the intuition that we all have for language learning. Finally, 85% of language is actually body language, non-verbal. So your third ear is your big ear, your whole body.
That is really interesting idea. So what you are saying is that our whole body is our third ear? When we are learning English, for example, we have to get our whole body involved?
Yes, that's exactly what it means.
So tell me, what's the relationship between Gongfu English and the third ear?
The Gongfu English system uses the third ear as the core text. The book is embedded in the Gongfu English program, and learners get to listen to and read the third ear in English. We give you all the tools you need to understand the book and help you to read it directly in the original English. If you've been following this podcast series, then you'll know about the idea of comprehensible input. When you get Gongfu English, the third ear is presented to you as comprehensible input. So while you're learning how best to learn a second language, you're also learning English. It's a great example of killing two birds with one stone. If you want to learn English, or any other language for that matter, easily and quickly, the third ear is a fantastic guide to help you master the skills and techniques that will make that possible.
I have another question here. Just now you said that we need to get our whole body involved in learning a new language. If we are just using Gongfu English on Apple Touch, how does that happen?
Well, that's a good question. The answer is it happens on many levels. Firstly, many of the things in the Gongfu English program encourage you to get your body involved. With face phonics, learners are observing a native speaker's face and copying the facial expressions that go with English words. Brain-soaking exercises teach you to do rhythm, tone, and pacing in English. And non-verbal communication in the language isn't just the body, but also these other aspects of the language. By learning to pay attention to this side of English, you're already getting your third ear, the body sense of the language, engaged in the learning process. And, of course, we have lots of content with music and rhythm, which trains your brain to hear English in the right chunks. Beyond that, when you get into the content of the third ear, I talk a lot about body language and communication in general. Most people aren't aware of how important that is, but as you read the third ear, you realize that body language is key to good communication and that you can actually use body language with your mother tongue. The result is that you begin to really pay attention every time you talk to someone, even in Chinese, and get very good at body language in general. Then, when you meet a Westerner, you find that you very easily use body language in the communication. What's really cool is that when you do this, you understand so much of what's going on, even if maybe you don't have all the words.
Got it. That's so interesting. Thanks for sharing all that with us today. For everyone who is listening to this broadcast, if you got any barriers or problems in your English learning, just drop us a note at answers@gongfuenglish.com. We'll work with those questions and put together podcasts that answer the big questions that everybody has. That's all we've got time for today. Thanks for tuning in. Bye!